Hi, good morning, everyone, and good morning to everyone, and thanks for joining us today. And welcome to our webinar. Today's Kelsius webinar is going to be based around shelf life management and label printing. And the goal of today's session will show you how the Kelsius system can simplify your food labeling and your shelf life management through our digital offerings and our smart printing features. And as well, busy food environments with many of you are involved in. I'm sure you're all aware how clear labeling and shelf management are important for food safety for your customers and helping business stay compliant with the HO requirements and other regulatory groups as well. And for today's webinar, you'll be joined by myself. My name is Patrick Gallagher. I'm the Customer Success Manager with Kelsius. And I'm also with my colleague here, Kieran Gallagher, who's our Sales and Marketing Manager as well. If you just want to say a quick hello, Kieran.
Hey, everyone. Thanks for joining.
And just before we kick off our webinar today, we have a quick housekeeping rules that we would just like to run through. So your camera and mic are automatically off. If you have any problems hearing presenters or viewing the presentation, you can check your device auto settings and your network connections. And you can submit questions during the webinar using the Q&A function, not the chat function. And just at the end of the webinar as well, we will answer questions also. And just a note there as well, on the desktop, the Q&A function is visible in your navigation bar. On mobile, click on the three dots icon for more options and choose Q&A. And if you have any queries or comments after the webinar, please feel free to email us at sales@kelsius.com. And also today's webinar is also going to be recorded as well. So if you do need a copy, it will be shared with everyone as well. And for today's webinar, this is the agenda that we have lined up and the sequence that is on the screen there at the moment. So Kieran is going to help with the majority of this today, but we're going to focus on business challenges, the difference between digital labels versus handwritten labels, creating business value, and there's also going to be a demonstration, and then we'll wrap up with the Q&A session at the very end and display our contact details as well. So on that note, I'm just going to pass you over to my colleague Kieran, and he is going to get us kicked off.
All right, thanks for that, Patrick. Yeah, thanks everyone again for joining. So I suppose to start off, why are we all here? Food safety, HACCP, it's one of the most highly regulated sectors across both Ireland and the UK, and that's rightfully so because it's keeping us all safe. But within that, food labeling is critically important. Failing to comply with the legislation around that can have severe consequences for our businesses. Looking here in Ireland, over the last 5 years, between 1 and 3 businesses every year has been closed for a period due to breaches of that legislation. So then looking at the challenges that compliance brings for businesses. So there's a number of different challenges that cause issue that need to be managed within our businesses. So the first is it adds time. It takes time to be compliant. So with paper labels, it takes quite a lot of time. Some of the feedback we would have got from the industry is that staff would be would spend 30 to 60 minutes per day on label printing. So that would be made up of calculating expiry dates, writing out all the labels, making sure they're all correct, and then every day also going around and checking all the produce and all the labels manually as well. So it's quite labor intensive. The next one then is human error. So we're going to look at in a little bit more detail at that later in the presentation, but that can cause a serious issue, especially if it causes us to be non-compliant and we get audited. Next is allergens, and I think we all know the risk that is at stake here. It's high stakes. It's vital that staff have all the knowledge and the information that we're presenting to our customers is correct and up to date because of the dangers of not having that information correct. And then finally, auditing. So being audited is it's a big thing for every food business right across the world. And demonstrating compliance, particularly from a food labeling perspective, can be quite difficult because there's no real audit trail with paper labels. They're usually discarded whenever the food is discarded. So now we're going to go on and look at some examples of the issues around handwritten labels. So what you're seeing here, it's obviously a very exaggerated example, but we can easily see that this can be very difficult for anyone to understand what date's being displayed here. This could be the 4th of April, it could be the 6th of April, it could be the 4th of June or the 6th of June. And if that happens us from a food safety perspective, number one, it could cause staff to make the correct decision in terms of interpreting what they're supposed to do with the product, but also from an audit perspective, if we were audited and there was just a slight ambiguity, that can cause us to fail that audit. So then looking now more into the more systematic issues behind handwritten labels. So there's four key pillars that I want to kind of focus on that really cause an issue. So the first one is the date formats. So here in Ireland, the UK, we're very lucky that we have an international workforce. It really adds value and adds flavor to the food offering, and we're very lucky to have that. But it also throws up some challenges as well, in that in different parts of the world, dates are presented, are written in different ways. For example, here we write the day first, then the month. In other parts of the world, the month is first, and then the day. So that can cause an issue if we have someone who's really busy and they're just acting on instinct. They're from a different part of the world, and they can write things down the way that they're used to. And if we look at the example on screen here, that date could be interpreted, depending on where we are or who wrote it, that could be interpreted as the 4th of May or the 5th of April. And again, that can cause a big issue when it comes to compliance. The next then is time blindness. So obviously, as we all, as it happens to everyone who works in food and non-food, the more we work throughout the day, generally, the less concentration and the less focus we're going to have. So that can be an impact when we're going to do something as critical as this. Even outside of that, we've all had instances, and I think it happens on a weekly basis to myself, where I'll think it's Tuesday, but it's actually Wednesday, or I think it's the 11th and it's really the 12th. And if that there filters down into our food safety labels, that can cause a real issue for our businesses. The next one then is the rules around it. So different products have different shelf lives, and managing and knowing all that knowledge with handwritten labels, it puts a lot of emphasis on the staff. For example, if we have one member of staff in our kitchen who knows who is kind of the manager of all the knowledge, and then that person is out sick, we have maybe informal staff or people picking up the slack from other sectors who don't know that can cause a real issue for us. If we take, for example, say in a deli serve over, we could have lettuce, we could have taco sauce, and we could have cheese, all with different shelf lives associated with them. And all it takes is for that person to be busy or get distracted by a customer, and they write down the taco sauce date on the lettuce label, or even, you know, they put the taco sauce label on the cheese. Anything like that there can cause a real issue from a compliance perspective. So then the last item is visuals. So there are a number of things that can factor into that. So again, going back to the example of international staff, that could impact maybe on how people spell things, the language that's used. People can have different grades of handwriting as well. So some people have more joint writing that's harder for other people to maybe make out. Then even beyond that, the environment can have an impact as well, whereby if a label gets damp and the ink can get smudged, or if you have two boxes, one sitting on top of the other, that can cause a label to then be be impacted. So that causes three main risks to our business. The first is a food safety risk, in that there is the potential that food that should have been discarded is still in use, or on the flip side of that, we're discarding food that's actually good and should be used. So that's obviously a cost to our business when it's not needed. And both of those then obviously factor into the fact that there is a compliance risk as well if we were to fail an audit. So now moving on, we're going to look at how digital label printing can help solve a lot of those problems. So I don't want you to spend any time reading this slide here. This slide is just to convey that Kelsius can offer a full end-to-end digital HACCP solution, and within that, up in the top right-hand corner, an element of that is our traceability, our shelf life management, and label printing. So that can sit as part of our fully integrated offering, or it can be utilized as a standalone system that's just used for label printing. So now we look at some of the problems that digital systems in general help solve. So the first is expiry calculation. So as I kind of alluded to earlier, when you have a manual system in place, it's very dependent on the user. And again, if you had a user who was maybe not as experienced and doesn't know the full detail of what's going on, maybe they're part-time or just filling in, that puts a lot of pressure on them. Whereas with a digital system, all the information is calculated automatically and it's fed back to the staff member. So it actually makes it easier for you to plug in someone should you ever need. Secondly is the time it takes. So handwritten labels, they're labor intensive. You have to calculate the expiry date, write down the product name, write down the date it was opened, potentially maybe the person who opened it as well. Whereas with a digital system, it's a couple of clicks and a lot of the information is pre-populated, so it's much easier, much quicker. And the more labels then you're generating, the more time you're going to save. Next, as we discussed earlier, is allergen management. So again, that's very dependent on staff, puts a lot of pressure on them because of what's at stake. Whereas with an automated system, the allergens can be inbuilt so that that their information is fed, and it makes it easier for you and your staff. Next is the discarding process. So it's very labor intensive, particularly if you have a big suite of products that you offer. Pretty much every day, staff are going to have to look at all the products, all the labels to see what needs to be discarded, what's good and what's bad. With a digital system, number one, on the app itself, you will see all open products. So anything that's going out of date today will be at the top and highlighted in red. So that's very easy for you to prepare for what's going out of date each day. But within that as well, when a product reaches the end of its shelf life, there is a reminder, so it'll alert staff to actually discard off the product, so you're covered at both sides. Then finally, audit readiness. So again, with manual paper labels, if you have to keep a production sheet separate, you're writing twice. Or indeed, if you don't have a production sheet, you can't prove ongoing that you have been compliant. Whereas with the digital systems, you have a full library of all open products, and you can instantly search through those to find if you needed to even hone in if there ever was a query or an issue raised. You can just search by the product name, the date range, or indeed the batch code to pull up that information instantly. So how do the systems work? In general, you're going to have an app on a tablet, and that's how the Kelsius system works. There you'll open your product. And I'm going to give a full demo of how our system works after this, but this is just a summary. You'll open the product on the tablet, click print. It will then transmit. We use Bluetooth functionality. Other providers can use different functionality. Ours is Bluetooth, which we find to be the most reliable. That will then print off the label. You can print numerous copies if you were taking a large container, opening it up and dividing it into multiple smaller containers. You still have that traceability. For any product that's open, it will then remain open, and you will then get alerted to discard of your product at the time that you need to discard of it. So now just looking at how we as digital label printers provide value to clients and to the market. So everyone needs this. Everyone who's serving food is required to label that food correctly, whatever sector that may be, whether that's butchers, whether it's CPUs, hospital kitchens, catering, hospitality, retail, they all have a need. And this can really add value for anyone in those sectors, whether it's the owner, manager, right down to the end user. And indeed, it makes it safer then for the client. So finally, just to summarize before we do go into a demo, the value add for your organization, the first thing you're going to experience is you're going to see a labor saving. So that time can be put back into your business. You can focus more on preparing food and serving customers. It also gives you peace of mind, knowing that you're always going to be audit ready, knowing that staff are going to follow correct procedure as well, because all the steps have been built into the system. And by doing that, it's mitigating any risk of an audit failure or indeed a food safety incident. So I am now going to stop sharing my slide. I'm going to hand you over to Teresa for a second, and I'm going to get set up for a demo.
Thank you for that, Kieran. That's fantastic. Thank you so much. And thanks, Patrick, before you. And thank you to everyone for joining us today and for taking time out of your busy days to join us for this food labeling webinar. I don't know how many of you, sorry, and as Kieran said, I'm Teresa. I'm in the background here looking at the questions and answers. So if you have questions that you want to submit to us, we'll answer them live on this session, or you can submit questions by email later. But yeah, I don't know how many of you on the call are using handwritten labels at the moment, but it is so important, as Kieran went through, for so many reasons, and so many pressures that we're all under today, whether it's to do with allergens or their audits and standards, not to mention time pressure. And I'm sure a lot of people still have labour shortages and challenges there. It really does tick a lot of boxes for us in any food retail environment to automate your processes and your labelling. Certainly on the marketing side, I see time and time again when we're talking to clients about the benefits of automating their system, whether it's the labelling or temperature monitoring that we obviously talk to our clients about. It comes down to the peace of mind that it offers. And you just know, if it's a reliable system, it's automated, it works. So it's, that peace of mind is really extra important when we have so many other challenges going on at the same time in our busy lives. So just as I said, questions and answers, it's still not too late to submit any questions if you want to in the Q&A section, but don't forget we're always here. So if you have any questions afterwards, or if you think of something afterwards, you can email us at support@kelsius.com. And of course, Patrick mentioned it earlier as well, this session is recorded, so we'll send out the link to the recording to everyone who registered. That'll include everybody on this call, and if you want to watch over, or if you missed anything, or if you want to share with a colleague, please feel free to do that. So thanks again for joining us. Kieran, I will hand back to you.
Perfect. Thanks, Teresa. Yeah, so I'm just now sharing my screen from my tablet here, and we deploy these on site. Again, they can be part of a fully integrated digital HACCP system, or they can be provided just for label printing. The first thing we're greeted with is a login. So each member of staff will have a PIN code, and that just means that every single record is traced back to that person. Within that, then we can build customer-specific templates dependent on what you're doing. So this template here is a full HACCP system, whereas if you were only using label printing, we would only have the icon shown, for example, shelf life labels and production recipes. So to focus in on how the system works, on this particular template, we have label printing based around fresh products and frozen products, and the naming can be changed to whatever you want here. Some people would call fresh chill products, other people would say fresh traceability. So we can set it up based on what you want to achieve. The main difference between both of these is for fresh products. This is where you're opening up the produce, and by doing so, you're changing the shelf life of that product. whereas frozen is more aimed for batch code management. When you open a product, you're not changing the shelf life of it, so the date on the package is what remains the use by date going forward. So I'm going to start and show you a fresh product traceability label. So to add a product in here, we just select our product. I'm going to select chicken in this scenario. I'm going to open it up. If it's part of an integrated system whereby we've checked this at goods in, we can pull that batch code forward, so we select from it. We don't have to type every single time. So we just select our original use by date, and then we add the product. You'll see here now the information that can be printed when we print off a label. We can print multiple copies if we need. When we click print, which I'm not going to do now because it's not going to pull forward for me, but that is the process then to print off a label. We can go back at any time and print off more labels if we need, or indeed if we sell out of the product or if we want to discard of it before it reaches its shelf life, we can click on the button and take that forward to discard of the product. One useful feature in here, and I'll just show you how that works. If we select coleslaw and we enter a batch code, you'll see the date for this particular product, the use by date, the sell by date is end of day plus 2 days. We still have to enter the original use by date. The reason for that being, if we were opening up coleslaw and it was the date on the package was going out of date tomorrow, we wouldn't want the system allowing it the 2 days. So if I select tomorrow's date, you'll see the sell by date has now realigned with that. It's brought back to the date that's on the package. And again, you'll see all the products are listed then in order of sell by date. Just going to open one more product to show you the full color coding, and I'm going to set the date to be used today. So now you'll see how that operates. So 2 things again can happen to any product in here. So the first thing that happens, for example, the chicken there, if we were to sell out of it, when we open up a new chicken record in this section, the previous one will show up on our record list as being sold out. Or if it reaches the end of its shelf life, you'll get an alert to discard of that product at a pre-agreed time that you want your alerts to come through. So for example, if you were finishing service at 5 o'clock, you may want the alerts coming through at 4 o'clock. So for frozen, it's the exact same process, but the beauty of this is when we enter a product here, the sell by date is what will dictate when we get the reminder. We're not changing the shelf life of it being open. So this is really useful where we have large batches of chicken fillets and we want that batch code then to follow through into our service, our cook and cool area. So we're just opening battered sausage. And again, all the functionality here will replicate once we've opened the product. It's just it'll be dictated by the sell by date, which is the date on the package. So just to show you the follow through sequence then, when we probe products, so if I've cooked the chicken, you'll see the batch code pulls through seamlessly for me. So it makes it much, much easier to manage. So I can just take my temperature and finish a record. I can still print at other points if I need, then moving forward within the digital HACCP system. Finally, just to show you, we can have more comprehensive labels as well if you're doing production in-house. So for any of the pre-packed for sale, we can take your product list, associate all the ingredients to those products. So I just select my category. I can enter the batch code of the product I'm creating. And I can select the quantity that I'm producing as well. You'll see on the right-hand side, all the ingredients are static. They're stored in there. So I can then enter batch codes and use by dates of those products. Again, if I select bacon, you'll see I can pull up the batch codes from the previous step. So it's really, really good at follow through on showing you full end-to-end traceability of your products. Should I ever need to change a product at this point, I can just click the X, remove it, and add another ingredient down here. So I still have that availability to do that. So when we go then to finish our product, you'll see the information pulls through, but very importantly, you'll see the ingredients and the allergens associated listed on the label that we go to print. At that point, again, then we have the same functionality in terms of color coding and sell by date ordering. And if product reaches the end of its shelf life, we can get an alert to discard. The only other really useful tool here is, because we're producing this produce in-house ourselves and we've logged the quantity, we can log the quantity that's discarded as well. So this can actually help make our production lines more efficient. If we're continually selling out of product, potentially we can produce more, or indeed if we're continually discarding product, potentially we can reduce that, so it can help save on waste. So that's pretty much how the system works. As just to summarize it, it really is a big step up from the issues that can arise with handwritten labels, as well as fitting in well to an integrated digital HACCP system as well. So that is all for me. I will reshare the presentation and we can move on to the apologies. So I need to come out of that. And I'll go here. Now, so we'll move on to our Q&A section.
Thanks again, Kieran. Excuse me. Yeah, and we don't have a huge amount of time left. So as I said earlier, if people have, we have a few questions in, but if people do have questions after the session, or if we don't get around to a question, we'll look at those afterwards. So again, you can email support@kelsius.com, or as I said, we'll make sure that we get back to everybody who's asked a question. To start us off with then, Patrick, I might put the first question to you, hopefully an easy one. And the question is from Kevin: do I have to order the labels through Kelsius?
So we do provide the labels. We can provide them to you, or you can source them elsewhere as well. So that would be the question to that, Kevin, if that helps.
Okay. Thank you for that. Thanks, Patrick. Kieran, I'll put the next question to you. Do I have to have the full Kelsius system to use this? So I presume they have Food Check to Go or Food Check 2.0 already. So do they, or sorry, they may not have that already, but do they have to have the full system in order to add food labeling to it?
No, you could get a system that's purely just for food labeling. If you had another system that you wanted to implement, whether it be paper-based for HACCP recording, this system can operate as a standalone. Obviously, does work better as part of our integrated offering, but can operate fully standalone.
Okay. They can certainly do that. Okay, thank you for that. Patrick, I'll go back to you. The next question is, we have the Kelsius system already, so they do have something in place. Will I be able to set this up with the printer myself? So I guess the question is, do they need an engineer, or do they need some extra help to add that on if they have the actual printer?
Yeah, so if you have the printer already, you can set it up yourself. We have how-to guides to assist you with that as well. Now, what we would recommend is that you would have a training session with one of our Kelsius training team. The reason being for that there is just to make sure the setup's right and you're getting all the benefits of the printing system as well. So we would just we would advise that a training session is worthwhile exercise.
Okay, and would that training session would they have to do that on site, or is that something that can be done somewhat remotely?
So we offer online and on-site training as well. So it's whichever works best for you as the end user.
Okay, I hope that helps answer the question. Kieran, for you, apart from the label printer, do I need any other equipment?
No, that's it. You do need obviously the tablet and the app up and running, but if you have the system in place, we would just deploy it to your current system. But how it would work is you have your tablet, your app, your web portal, and your label printer then as the output. Potentially you can have probes as part of your package as well if you're doing food probing as part of the preparation. But each of those can be broken up into different sections if someone just wants to focus on one area.
Okay, thank you for that. We might wrap up the questions there because we're just at 11:30 now and I don't want to run over. So as I said, if we have other questions, we will make a note of those and get back to people individually. But thank you everyone again for the questions. Thank you for joining us. I will hand back, I think, to Patrick. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Teresa. Yeah, just to wrap up, we hope today's session was beneficial. And on screen there, you'll see our contact details, so you can contact us via email at support@kelsius.com. Our UK and Irish numbers are displayed there as well if you wish to give us a call. And then www.kelsius.com is our website where we have all information on our products and offerings as well. We will be doing future webinars as well. And we look forward to having you involved in them and future webinars as well. But I'd just like to thank you to wrap up for joining today, and we'll see you down the road. Thanks very much for your time. Thank
Thanks,
you.
everyone. Bye bye.